In today's live lesson, we're going to be talking about strumming on the ukulele, and fingerstyle, and how we can add the melody to create rich chord melody arrangements using each of these techniques as well. And this is going to make for a really fun time because I think it's going to help unlock a lot of different elements of terminology with ukulele playing and showcase how you can elevate your skills as an ukulele player by utilizing different techniques for different roles within your playing. Let's go ahead and dive in with strumming. Let's talk about what strumming is and some basic techniques that we can utilize while strumming to get a really good sound. So I'm going to bring the camera down. It's going to look something like this. And I'm going to start here by just doing some basic strumming. Well, what is strumming? Strumming to me on an ukulele is any time you're creating a pulse with your hand movement. And that's going to look something like this. You see how my hand is going down and back up. Now, strumming can be done a variety of different ways in terms of what fingers hit the strings. You could strum with your thumb, your index, lots of fingers. There's a lot of different variations. As long as your hand is pulsing down and up like this, it really is considered a strum technique, at least how I think of it. So let's go and learn our basic strum. Take your index finger on your playing hand, go ahead and flick it over the strings right where the fretboard meets the body right here. To start, let's do an A minor chord. You can just place the second fret of your G string right here. If you don't know what that is, it's okay to leave it all open as well. And we're going to practice flicking the finger down towards the ground and striking the strings as we do that, and then curling the finger back up, coming through the pad of the finger right here and pointing up towards your chin. And just practice going down and up just like this. If you've never strummed the ukulele before, this can be quite challenging at first. If you've strummed the ukulele before, go and just try playing along with me with your A minor chord or all open, whatever you're comfortable with. And start to feel this pulse now that we're creating with our hand driving through. This pulse is what creates the strumming technique to me. And we're going to be looking at the song House of the Rising Sun as we learn these techniques today. So let's go ahead and start playing that. It's important to note that we're going to be doing this pattern and we're just going to keep this going as we play different chords. The first chord is our A minor chord, just that middle finger there on the second fret of the G string. Then we're going to go to a C chord, just the ring finger on the third fret of the A string. And then we're going to go to a D chord. Now a D chord is kind of challenging if you haven't played it before. Bar across the second fret, add 5 on the A string. And then we're going to go to an F chord, which is second fret on the G string and first fret on the E string. Now if I play this in time, it's going to sound something like this. Feel free to follow along if you'd like. And if this is too challenging, it's okay to just listen at this point. So it's going to sound like... Notice right now I don't really have any melody going on with it, right? So if I wanted to play House of the Rising Sun with this basic strumming, I would need to sing or have somebody else play the melody. Now I'm not a very good singer, but I'll try my best. It's something like this. There is a house in New Orleans. And this works great, especially when you're first learning to play, because it gives you this nice rhythm as you're working through. When we play chords on the ukulele like I am right now, we are playing what's called the harmony. Bring the camera back up for a moment. The harmony is the background to the song, and strumming is a great way to add rhythm to that harmony. The chords that we play are the harmony, the background, and the rhythm is that groove that reinforces it all and kind of the glue that holds it all together. When we do this style, our voice ends up usually being the thing that we carry the melody with, which is what gives the sort of the identity to the song. This can also be when you're playing with somebody else. Maybe you've got a friend playing a different instrument. There's a lot of different ways to go about this, but strumming is a really great accompaniment technique for this. And that's why most people that strum the ukulele sing as they're strumming as well, just because it's a technique that fits really well. If you've ever gone to an ukulele club, you might notice that everyone, for the most part, is strumming almost all the time. And that is because they're playing the harmony, their chords, with their rhythm, their strumming and strum patterns to create this nice accompaniment for them to sing along with. Strumming is also really nice because it is a kind of binary relationship. It's a down and an up, and it always does that. An interesting thing about strumming, bring the camera back down, is if you start to miss the strings when you're strumming, start to actually just not strike them, but keep the pulse going, you can create variations to the rhythm you're playing. So what we were playing a moment ago was just straight down ups, right? Going just a little bit faster now to kind of show you the sound. But what if I miss the string sometimes and do something like this? Here that sounds very different, but look at the hand visually. You see it's doing the same thing. It's still going with the down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's just sometimes I'm striking the strings while other times I'm missing them. And this is how strum patterns are created. It's just moving our hand at a consistent pace, but choosing to strike and miss the strings in different intervals to create different patterns. In addition to creating patterns by striking and missing the strings, we can incorporate different techniques. That can include things like Rasgueado or chunking or ghost notes. We're not going to be able to get into all those different techniques today because it would take hours to go through them. But we do have different resources that you can check out on these techniques that are going to be linked in the description if you're watching this as a replay. And so if I add in some of that stuff, it might sound something like this. Pretty awesome and spicy, right? Using, again, the Rasgueado, ghost notes, chunking, all sorts of different stuff. But at the end of the day, it still is just the hand pulsing down and up, right? That consistent movement is really what creates the strumming technique. And that's the thing to take away from strumming, is it's going to be a pulse movement with your hand. Now, fingerstyle is a buzzword that's thrown around a lot in the ukulele world. And what does it mean? Well, fingerstyle to me is just when we're using our fingers, any combination of our fingers, to strike the strings more individually. Strumming is that sense of a pulse created by this down and up movement of our hand. Fingerstyle is the sound being created by our fingers striking the strings individually to create a more individualistic sound that's, well, pretty cool. And it sounds something like this. I'm going to do kind of a fingerstyle version of House of the Rising Sun, but I'm going to do it very basic. I'm going to play the same chords. I'm going to take my thumb on the C string, my index here on the E. I'm going to just use these two fingers. I'm going to do something that's called an in and out pattern. I'm going to play this by going thumb on the C, index on the E, thumb on the G, index on the A, back to the thumb on the G, and then index on the E. So I'm starting on the interior strings, going to the outer strings, and then back in. And with the chord switches, you can hear it creates a really nice sound. So this is a really good first fingerstyle pattern to play if you haven't done it before, or even if you're a more seasoned player, if you haven't done the in and out, it can sound really good. So let's try it together. Holding the A minor chord, thumb on the C, index on the E, thumb on the G, index on the A, thumb on the G, index on the E. So it goes C, E, G, A, G, E. Again. Speed up just a little bit. Now, something you'll notice immediately with this is when we have a doubled note like we do here, see how this note's played the same way twice? It doesn't sound nearly as good. It didn't matter much in strumming because with strumming, it's more this pulse and all the sounds are getting kind of squashed together to be at once. However, with the picking, when we're playing the same note twice, it doesn't sound nearly as good because, well, if I'm playing the G, A, G, A, it's just the same note over and over. So when we're doing fingerstyle, we tend to want to make sure that each string is playing a different version of a note to make it sound more full. So in this case, instead of playing our normal A minor, let's add the third fret here on the A string, which gives us this high C note, which is the same as our C string, but in an octave higher. Now, if you're playing a low G, you don't need to add this third fret. Your A string will sound in an octave already. But go ahead and try this third fret on the A string, and now let's do that same pattern. C, E, G, A, See how much nicer that is, right? So fingerstyle is when we're playing individual strings with individual fingers. And it can be a combination of fingers that are doing it. In this case, I'm using 2 fingers to play this pattern. And if I play the chords, it sounds quite nice, doesn't it? I'm going to speed it up a little bit. This is about the same speed that I was just strumming it at a minute ago. So this also works really well to sing along with because it's still accompaniment. We're still playing the harmony, playing these chords without a melody. That melody usually is going to be sang. And so if we try that, that might be something like this. I'm not very good at it. There is a house on New, or in New Orleans. Oh man, see how I'm flubbing all over the place. Why is that? Bring the camera up for a moment. It's because fingerstyle is not the pulse of a strum. Strumming's very straightforward. It's down and up and down. It's creating this consistent movement with the hand. As long as that hand is driving down and up, you're pretty good to go. As soon as you start doing fingerstyle, you're pulsing your fingers individually, which makes it much harder and kind of like doing this. Strumming is a little bit easier to sing with, generally speaking, because we are just keeping our hand moving in the same way we would be tapping our foot. As soon as we start doing fingerstyle, it becomes a lot harder, and it becomes a lot more difficult to practice with singing, even though it's still a style that's often played with singing. Fingerstyle is less common to hear, especially from beginner players, for this exact reason. It's a lot harder. It's much harder to do fingerstyle than it is to do strumming for most people. Not everybody. In fact, for me, it was a little bit easier to do fingerstyle early because I was so bad with rhythm. But everyone's different. And for the most part, to sing and play at the same time, fingerstyle is usually more difficult than strumming and singing at the same time. And that's why it's such a mystic technique and why everyone wants to learn it. But all that it is learning how to use your fingers to strike the strings in different ways. Bring the camera back down. We learned our 2-finger picking technique here with the in and out pattern, right? But there's a lot of other ways that we can finger pick. We can also do 3-finger picking where we station the fingers to different things, and that can create almost like a Travis picking sound. If I do that with House of the Rising Sun, that's kind of a cool sound. I can also use 4-finger picking and station a finger per string to create a totally different sound entirely. And if you want to learn that sound, that's linked in the description for the lesson I did here on Rock Class 101 on House of the Rising Sun with that sort of style. It's pretty cool though, because the different fingerstyle techniques all create different sounds. And just like strumming techniques create different sounds, they also can add different levels of complexity to what it is that we're playing. And that is challenging, but worth exploring. If you're new to fingerstyle, I strongly recommend starting with that in and out pattern that I just spoke about. Just practicing going in and out with the thumb and index over all 4 strings. Fingerstyle, though, isn't limited to just finger picking. And this is where it gets really interesting, because fingerstyle can also be when we're playing with our thumb. And if I do something like this, is this strumming or is this fingerstyle? Well, this is where it gets a little interesting, because I would call this a thumb strum, which means it's a strumming technique, right? But I actually think of it more as a fingerstyle technique. Here, all that I'm doing is playing my same basic chords, using my thumb and just strumming through all 4 strings. But I'm not strumming with a pulse here. I'm just kind of going through. And maybe I'll even go where I'm actually strumming through and then plucking the individual notes. Well, this is almost like a hybrid now between strumming and finger picking, right? But really, it's more of a fingerstyle technique because I'm using my finger to go across the strings. And even though they are going across multiple strings, I'm still more pulsing on the strings themselves rather than with the hand. And so with this in mind, if I go, That's another cool little fingerstyle technique using the thumb. And the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because all of these styles we've played so far need somebody to be singing with it. And I don't like to sing. I like to play the melody on my ukulele. And if you want to play your ukulele as the melody, if you want to sing through your ukulele, playing chord melody style is a great way to do this. And chord melody style can be played with both fingerstyle and strumming. Now, I kind of think of it as level 1 when you're learning ukulele. Learn some basic strumming and some basic chords and kind of learn this. This is kind of level 1 of ukulele playing in a lot of ways. Level 2 might be using some fingerstyle with it. Right? Well, level 3 is using fingerstyle to play the melody. And that might look and sound something like this. I'm going to use just my thumb with this. You can hear now I'm playing a chord melody arrangement, meaning I'm playing the melody as well as the harmony, those chords, to create this solo sound. And I'm using the thumb strumming fingerstyle technique. I know, isn't that crazy? I'm calling it thumb strumming fingerstyle to create that sort of sound. But I could also use like 3 fingerstyle. To create that sound. I could even get richer with it using 4 finger techniques or whatever. To create these different sounds. And isn't that wonderful? We've got 2 different videos, or actually 3 different videos using fingerstyle techniques of House of the Rising Sun linked right over here. You can see one that I did with Kanalea ukulele. That's a very basic version using the thumb fingerstyle, thumb strumming technique. We've got one on my channel that does a very basic finger picking. And we've got one here on Rock Class 101 that's a little bit more advanced. Fingerstyle chord melody is an immense technique. There's a lot of different ways to go about it and to practice it. And sometimes they get meshed together to be thought of as one technique. But really, fingerstyle is just when we're playing with our fingers popping over each string individually, right? So chord melody is not limited to this. And this is where the craziness really comes. And if I think of level 1 as basic strumming and level 2 is basic finger picking or basic fingerstyle, level 3 is basic chord melody fingerstyle. Well, I think of level 4 as chord melody style strumming, which looks like this. Isn't that cool? This is a very underrated technique because it's so challenging to do. The limitation of strumming being in a pulse makes it really difficult to layer in the melody because there's no guesswork. You have to keep everything very structured within the confines of these down and up motions. Now, we did a whole lesson on this exact arrangement of House of the Rising Sun here on Rock Class 101. If you're watching this as a recording, you can see it linked over here. And it's super fun to play. But it's best to learn the basic strumming and basic fingerstyle and learn how to do chord melody fingerstyle before trying to implement the strumming with the chord melody style, just because of the layers of complexity that are added to it. There's a lot going on, there's a lot of moving pieces, but it's pretty cool to see how strumming and fingerstyle can create so many different sounds on your ukulele journey. And if you're someone who just likes to sing and play the ukulele, strumming and fingerstyle can get you there, can get you a lot of different sounds. And if you're like me and you want to do more chord melody style, well, both techniques can do wonders. And don't sleep on strumming with chord melody style, because oftentimes I think that gets a little bit forgotten. So I'm going to put it all together now. I'm going to do a little bit of very basic strumming, and then from that strumming I'll go into fingerstyle, and from that fingerstyle I'll go into fingerstyle chord melody, and then from that fingerstyle chord melody I'll go into strumming chord melody with House of the Rising Sun, and it should sound something like this. Isn't that cool? So that's a combination of strumming and fingerstyle done in both more basic ways, to more intermediate ways, into more advanced ways, incorporating chord melody techniques as well. I'm going to bring the camera back up here. This is a lot of stuff that we've covered in a very small amount of time. And the goal here is not to be able to do all of these different things I've showcased today. It's rather just to gain a better understanding of what makes something strumming versus fingerstyle and how those techniques can incorporate to different styles of playing, whether you're singing or playing with more of a chord melody spin like I'm doing here. Again, we got a lot of different lessons on House of the Rising Sun that you can check out to learn these different styles as you're going on your ukulele journey. I'm going to open up to questions now. If you have any, if you're watching this live, feel free to leave them in the chat. We do these every second Tuesday of the month, and the posts on Rock Class 101 on the forums give you an opportunity to ask your questions there if you're unable to attend it live. So I'll be sure to check that too as we go through. I do see a couple notes in the chat. So this just in on ukulele, yay, finally able to see my first live lesson. So glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Hope you've had a good time. The Bumblebard says, hi Matt, great topic. Do you think that an arrangement needs strumming to be full and dynamic as an arrangement? No, but that doesn't mean I don't love it, right? Different songs have different needs. You don't always need to have strumming, just like you don't always need to have fingerstyle. Generally speaking, I think a little of each goes a long way. And, you know, like at the end of the House of the Rising Sun there, even though I was strumming, I went back into a little bit of fingerstyle stuff, right? Because I like that sound with it. But no, an arrangement doesn't have to have both. I do think, though, that fingerstyle, especially in the chord melody realm, tends to be a little bit more incorporated to give you this depth of your arrangement, right, to sound. But it doesn't need it. One of my favorite songs ever on the ukulele, I've been working out with a lot of private students recently, is Jake Shimobukuro's Pianoforte, right? And the melody of that sounds something like this. It goes... I think it'd be a little weird if I just all of a sudden went. Not that it's bad, but I don't think it really fits the song, right? I think that song is so fine with just the fingerstyle, right? It's not to say it can't happen. Maybe that's something to explore, but generally speaking, I don't think you have to have strumming to create a full arrangement, but it certainly can help, especially in songs where you want to grow and swell the sound into something bigger. Strumming tends to be a more intense sound than fingerpicking, just overall, so it can make, you know, for a really good arc to your song when you're trying to grow to kind of a climax of the tune. And it's a really great technique. Martin says, great class. I saw Martin's message there right before Pianoforte, because Martin is working on Pianoforte in lessons. And he's doing a great job with it. But good to see you here, Martin. Bumblebard says, LOL. Hopefully that was helpful for the question. Zwana, heyo, Matt, and also Bumblebard. And Justin, first time for me too. Welcome. So glad that you're able to attend. And this just in on ukulele says hello again. Hello. Yeah, there's a lot that we covered today. This lesson lesson is in a lot of ways more infotainment than it is actual lesson, because we're just sort of looking at what strumming is versus what fingerstyle is and how they can be incorporated in different ways. This is also a really funny thing, because I'm sure I'll eventually get a comment that says, well, no, the thumb strum is actually a strum technique, or, you know, something else is actually a fingerstyle technique. Well, it all comes out in the wash at the end of the day. There's so many different techniques that we do that you could call one versus another, right? There's an arrangement that I work on with students of Eleanor Rigby that Jake Shimabukuro does. And like, is this strumming or is this fingerstyle? It goes... right? Is that strumming or finger picking? What do you think? This is definitely strumming, but what about... is that strumming or finger picking? Right? It's kind of both. There are clear strumming parts, right? When it's doing the... right? Clear strumming, and there's clear finger picking. That's clear fingerstyle, but kind of in between these parts... it's kind of both techniques. And that's what's neat about it. A lot of times you'll hear that called the pinch technique. And it's kind of a signature technique that bridges the gap between strumming and fingerstyle. And so it's not hard, fast rules. You can make some subjective, adjustments as you're working through, where you can think, I'm thinking this more is strumming because maybe there's more of that hand pulse. Or, man, that's more finger picking, fingerstyle, because you're using your fingers more individually over the strings. As long as you have a clear kind of understanding of the technique that you're doing and the outcome it can create, then you're good to go. The labeling is less important. So it is fun to explore, though, especially like for me, I'm a solo ukulele player. And because I'm a solo ukulele player, I try to use every technique I can to create the most sound I can from this instrument. And so strumming and fingerstyle each give their own, unique tones, but strumming and fingerstyle are each just a school of thought with many, many hundreds of different techniques and approaches that can be used within them. With fingerstyle, we talk about, playing with just your thumb, playing with 2 fingers, playing with 3 fingers, playing with 4 fingers. I just played the same fingerstyle pattern 4 different ways by using 1 finger, 2 fingers, 3 fingers, and 4 fingers, right? Those are all different techniques. Now, each one of those have their own sets of things that they do exceptionally well, too. So it's a pretty limitless opportunity to practice. There's so much to it that makes it a lot of fun. So let's see if there are any other questions here. This just in on... there's a couple I missed here. Bumblebard says, thank you, Matt. I hope one day I can add strumming to songs. Very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, strumming to songs, super fun. That House of the Rising Sun arrangement I did here at Rock Class 101 is a really, really good one that's quite challenging, but really rewarding. It's a lot of fun to play. This just in on ukulele says, Here Comes the Sun had fingerpicking that went into strumming. That was difficult, but great practice. Yeah, Here Comes the Sun, a very iconic fingerstyle piece, right? Something like that. But I couldn't... right? That's more strumming. So going from one into the other works really, really well. I haven't played that song in a long time, but that's a really good one. Another one of my favorites that, the House of the Rising Sun does that strumming from fingerstyle into strumming, right? Another one of my favorites, another Beatles song, and to talk a little bit more with the Jake Shimabukuro stuff, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. If you watched these live lessons before, it's kind of a running meme that I mentioned Gently Weeps at some point in them, and this one's no different. Playing this in the fingerstyle creates one sort of sound and vibe to strumming it. That's what makes the arrangement so great, is the depth that's created by using different techniques to create different sounds. So you absolutely can add strumming and picking to different arrangements to create different levels of energy for your arrangement. So let me see if there are any other questions here. There we go. Ron says, I always heard that if you are picking a pattern, such as in and out, it's called finger picking, but then if you're plucking the melody or not a pattern, then it's called fingerstyle. Yeah, I mean, this is what's funny about it is there's no hard and fast terminology that I'm familiar with where it's just universally accepted by all. I do try to use, I try to not use the term finger style as much for that reason. I do think of a pattern, as a finger picking technique. And then finger style, what does that even mean, right? If you're thinking of finger style as more chord melody style playing, that checks. I do like that because it's saying, hey, when I'm playing the melody of the song, I'm doing all sorts of different things. The danger there is when I play it with strumming, is that finger style strumming? That's, it's kind of that chord melody strumming. And these can be synonymous. That's totally fine. But we just want to make sure whatever terms we're using, we have a clear understanding of what they mean. And we try to clearly articulate what those meanings are to the other people that we're working with, right? And so I do think that's a great way of looking at it. And I've heard that as well. I've just kind of heard it so many different ways that I don't know what to think anymore. And so for me, I think of strumming, and then I think of finger picking, and then I think, am I strumming and finger picking just to be playing the harmony, or am I also playing the melody? And if I'm doing that, then I'm playing more that chord melody style. But a lot of different ways of saying the same thing. So it's kind of fun to look at that. So, all right, are there any other questions here? Let me check the forum again. I think we already got it there. And Bumblebard says, fingerstyle is styling with their fingers, of course. That sounds good to me, right? And so it's kind of like the term Travis picking, right? Travis picking is a guitar technique created by Merle Travis, where you feature the bass line essentially being played with the thumb, with then the melody and harmony being played with the other fingers. Well, it's not really possible to Travis pick effectively on an ukulele because we don't have the bass notes to do it very well, especially if you're playing a high G ukulele like me. That being said, I've done like 3 different videos of how to Travis pick on the ukulele because I'm adapting the technique to the instrument that we have. Would it be correct to call it Travis picking? I don't know. I'll let someone else decide whether or not it should be called that. But it's a cool technique. It has a cool sound, and it gets me a certain outcome that I do like in certain environments. So it's definitely worth exploring. So I would worry a little bit, less overall when you're learning all these things of the terminology and more worry about what the outcome is. Why are you learning this technique? What does it do for you? And then try to communicate that by doing that instead of, it's like, oh, I need to up my fingerstyle game. What does that even mean, right? So it's kind of fun. The ukulele is a very interesting young instrument with a lot of inconsistencies for techniques in terms of how we name them and how we call them. So as long as you're doing stuff that sounds good and works well for you, you're doing a great job. Well, I don't see any other questions right now, so we'll go ahead and end this lesson here. Just to recap though, strumming is going to be, in my opinion, anytime you're pulsing the hand down and up. And this can encompass very basic patterns. It can also encompass all sorts of crazy cool techniques and all sorts of opportunities for different hand movements and other things to be incorporated. But as long as the hand is moving, pulsing with a down and up, to me, that's strumming. Fingerstyle or finger picking is when you're using the things individually over the strings. These can be sort of set patterns, using 2 fingers, 3 fingers, just 1 finger. There's a lot of options there. Each of these techniques can also be used to play the melody of a song, whether that's something where a basic fingerstyle or some strumming. There's limitless opportunities for you playing as you get comfortable with each technique. So be sure and check out the links on the House of the Rising Sun lessons, and I'll see you guys next time for the next live lesson here on Rock Class 101. Thank you so much. Have a great one.